Hello, everyone, and many thanks for joining today's stream. You know what? I guess, light will be better now. And so, many thanks, dear friends, for joining this stream. I have prepared quite a number of news on some major developments that Russian media is focused on and media worldwide. Basically, hopefully, you will find new segment informative and useful. And if so, as always, sir, I will ask her to like the video and leave some commentary. And if there will be any questions, dear friends, through supporter platforms, PayPal, Boosty, or Super Chat on Rumble, of course, I will react on it after the news segment. That's been said, let's go through some news straight away without any further delay. And I will start with this report from Task News Agency that overnight 33 drones were intercepted by air defense systems on duty that was launched by Western-backed terrorist regime of Zelensky with assistance of NATO. I can give you some specifics on that. 8 drones were intercepted over the Bryansk region, 4 over the Sea of Azov, 4 over the Leningrad region. And when it comes to Leningrad region, as you know, always speculations began that these drones could be launched from some of the Baltic states. Quite possible, but Russian officials never make any such statements. We should keep that in mind too. 3 drones were intercepted over the Crimea, 3 drones over the Rostov region, also 3 drones over the Pskov region, 3 over the Black Sea, 2 drones over the Novgorod, and 1 over the Aryol region. Also 1 drone over the Tver and the Tula regions, 1 each. Unfortunately, not all drones were intercepted by air defense systems. Unfortunately, some of them did manage to bypass air defense. And for example, we have reports this morning that EU regime and its NATO backers try at least to attack industrial facility in Dagestan, North Caucasus region, Autonomous Republic of the Russian Federation. And there was several drones, by the way, several drones that did manage to reach Dagestan, Makhachkala, if I am correct. And I can show you some video of that. One drone definitely hit a residential area, by the way. Another one did manage to damage industrial plant somewhat. So this is their video. As you can see, it's clearly a residential area. Let's start it again. So drone is flying and hit residential area. No industrial facilities, no military facilities, nothing. It's just residential buildings. And another drone that you will see in a second did manage to strike there some industrial facility. At this point, no reports in Russian segment of internet, in Russian media, about casualties as a result of this strike. If any update on that, of course, I will share additional information in the next updates. Not the first, and I'm afraid not the last time when the regime, with assistance of NATO, is conducting terrorist attacks. In one instance there in Dagestan, you clearly can see the drone targeted civilian area, right? There is high-rising apartment buildings there, but no military or industrial facilities. Second drone did manage to hit some industrial area. RIA Novosti, Vzгляд newspaper is also reporting that, well, when it comes to Ukrainian terrorism, by the way, there was attacks, I will assume, on energy infrastructure of Hungary and Romania almost simultaneously on 20th of October. And I don't know if any Western media outlet reported about it, but Russian media pays attention to it. I personally reported in my updates. And let me give you some details, because yesterday's second live stream was suppressed by algorithm big time, and almost, very few, let's say, very few members of our community received notification about update. I will repeat this news then, that two series of incidents occurred at the oil refineries in Hungary and Romania, where Russian oil was processed, the causes of which have not yet been established, although me personally have no doubts whatsoever that this was a terrorist attack conducted potentially by terrorists of the regime under the orders of British Secret Services. Have no doubts about it, by the way. This is a British attack on Hungary and Romania, 100%. So on Monday, two oil refinery emergencies were reported in Eastern Europe. Kommersant reported earlier at midday, an explosion rocked the Petotel Lukoil refinery in Ploiești, southern Romania, and on Tuesday, there was two incidents that was separated by day. On Tuesday night, MOL refinery caught fire in a Hungarian town of Zsajalombata, south of Budapest. In Hungary, 17 firefighting crews, along with the company's own firefighting resources, were deployed to contain the fire at their facility. According to MOL, representatives facilities undamaged by the fire and gradually resuming operations. It was a fire, so there was some damage, by the way. I always struggle to understand what the hell is going on with these people that say there was no damage or minor damage when there is clearly fire and destruction in the place. What the hell is going on there? But I guess this MOL company was trying to keep its shares as high as possible, and that's there. Some commercial interests are behind these kind of statements. But anyways, allegedly this facility continues to work on oil refine, and the damage from the emergency is being assessed. So there is some damage. The company does not rule out using strategic reserves to supply the country with fuel. Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban reassured on the social media public that fuel supplies to Hungary are normal and that the circumstances of the fire are being thoroughly investigated. The cause of the incident has not yet been determined. The MOL refinery primarily processes Russian oil delivered via Druzhba pipeline. On the same day, October 20, around midday, an explosion occurred at the Petrotel Lukoil refinery in Romania, operated by a Lukoil subsidiary. Lukoil is a Russian giant oil company, energy company. At the time of the explosion, the plant was not operating due to scheduled shutdown, but 57-year-old worker was injured. He suffered serious leg and head injuries. The causes of both incidents have not been officially announced, and it is unknown whether they are connected or not. And of course they are, by the way. Both refineries were mainly processing Russian oil, and this is, as I said, direct terrorist attack of UK that is using Ukrainian terrorists on Hungary and Romania. There can be no doubts about it, right? Two incidents on oil refineries, on energy infrastructure of two different countries, same time, approximately same time. What is the chances that this is some random accidents, man? There is zero chances on that. This is clearly UK's terrorist attack on Hungary and Romania, and for plausible deniability, London is using these Ukrainian fascists and the Nazis and the terrorists, right? Usual practice at this point. And when it comes to British terrorism, by the way, I will repeat, if I may, that Russian Foreign Intelligence Chief Sergei Narishkin directly claimed that UK intelligence was behind the Nord Stream explosions, Nord Stream terrorist attack, basically. London felt impunity and is now preparing new sabotage in the Baltics and the Black Seas, Narishkin also stated. And who has any doubts that that's exactly what a British criminal regime gonna do, by the way? Does anybody has any doubts that they will continue to operate with the terrorist tactics? Of course they will. Of course they will. And well, literally at any given point, British terrorists might conduct explosions on a Turk Stream pipeline. On a Turk Stream pipeline, which goes from Russia to Turkey and then delivers gas from Turkey to European states. And the significant part of this pipe is under the waters of the Black Sea, right? And at any day, today, tomorrow, in a week's time from now, British terrorist regime will most definitely tries at least to destroy that pipeline also. No doubts about it, by the way. It is no longer appropriate to call British terrorist regime legit regime. It's a freaking terrorists, mass murderers. British aristocracy is a freaking filthy animals, right? Period. And that's the attitude they only deserve, man. No respect whatsoever. Let's continue with some other news. And during the last night, Russian armed forces launched relatively large-scale drone and missile strikes on military, logistical, and energy infrastructure of the Kiev regimes. Explosions were heard in Kiev, Sumy, Chernihiv, Kharkov, Dnipropetrovsk, Zaporozhye, Odessa, and a number of other regions. And there was sweeping blackouts all over the Kiev-controlled territory. Latest reports are that there is still some energy shortages in Kiev, Sumy, Chernihiv, and a number of other areas. Maybe Russian political decision was made by Russian leadership, and hands of Russian militaries were a little bit untied. Not sure about it, but maybe this is the case. And if so, of course, Russian militaries will continue to obliterate energy infrastructure of enemy, Western-backed terrorist regime of Zelensky, because obviously energy is used to produce weapons, to maintain weapons, and so on. So it's a legit target, 100%. And people that are living on Kiev-controlled territory, if they have opportunity, it will be better if they will move to Europe, by the way, for time being, to Poland, Germany, France, Italy. They are happy to receive them, I know. Right, they have a lot of money, by the way, to pay Ukrainians money to accommodate them, and so it will be reasonable if 10-15 million people from Kiev-controlled territory, whatever is left there, basically, will move to Europe, while NATO countries, very same European countries, are doing everything they can to prolong this proxy war against Russia. And maybe they will. Maybe European countries should expect a new wave of millions of people from territory still controlled by NATO in this former Soviet Republic. RIA Novosti is also reporting that, this is good news, by the way, very good news, that a NATO officer command bunker was destroyed in the Kiev region together with these NATO officers. So Russian forces struck a NATO officers' command bunker in the Kiev region. Nikolaev underground coordinator Sergei Lebedev told RIA Novosti. Underground is, of course, called pro-Russian partisans, basically, that are operating on Kiev-controlled territory. There is information about destruction of command bunker along with the officers, including from NATO countries. He said no details on that, dear friends. Hopefully, everybody in that bunker was killed. as a result of this strike, and hopefully many of them were NATO officers. I would love if this will become true. Of course, NATO is our enemy. NATO officers are enemies of Russia, and all of them should be exterminated without any doubts, right? I will feel no sorry, by the way, for any NATO military whatsoever. There is information also, according to Lebedev, about destruction of command bunker along with their officers, including those from NATO. In addition, the fighters hit workshop producing drone engines near the Giuliani airport and the training camp of the Ukrainian armed forces in Borispol. Okay, by the way, another report about a successful Russian long-range precise strike. And yet again, I hope no NATO officer managed to survive and come out from that bunker. All of them should be freaking exterminated, man. No mercy towards the enemies whatsoever. TASS news agency is also reporting that, well, there is a long time since we last hear about North Koreans in Russia, and the governor of Kursk region, Hinstein, stated that North Korean military is actively participating in demining operations in the Kursk border area. Let me give you some details on that. The mining of the Kursk border area is being carried out with the active participation of the North Korean troops. Kursk region governor Alexander Hinstein announced on the same TV channel. Okay, on some TV channel, by the way. What the hell? Either this technical or automatic translation of Google is this garbage, or I don't know, TASS news agencies forget how to write news. Which same TV channel, man? Anyways, representatives of the Korean People's Army were actively involved in liberating the border area. Today, they are actively involved in demining the area. Incidentally, this is also a crucial task related to future restoration of security of the territory, which is contaminated with the minefields, unexploded ordnance, aerial bombs, and the shells. Regional governor stated, and so yes, North Korean troops still are here in Russia and assisting Russian militaries in this particular case in the mining process, and it's a painstakingly a long process, isn't it? I was asked a couple of times by members of our community when people will be able to go back to liberated settlements in the DPR, Zaporozhye region, LPR, Kherson region, and so on. And well, question is how long it will take. The answer is lies in how long it will take to demine the territories, right? We are talking about tens of thousands potentially of unexploded ordnance of all sorts, and it takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of time. In some cases, many years before entire area is cleaned up from hazardous objects, right? How long? I mean, it's how many months now that Kursk salient was completely liberated by Russian forces, and as you can see, dear friends, there is still active work is ongoing on the mining process. So it's a long. It takes a long time. Also, quite a strange, I will say, report is coming from Canada that Ottawa has canceled their contract to supply armored personnel carriers to Ukraine. Canada has canceled their contract to supply Ukraine with 25 refurbished armored personnel carriers. CBC reports, citing Canadian Defense Minister David McGuinty, in 2023, Canada donated 25 APCs to Kiev regime, basically. The contract for the supply of refurbished APC armored vehicles has been officially cancelled, and no explanation was given. According to TV channel, McGuinty said he could not go into details about the cancellation of the deal, and it is anybody's guess now what the hell is happened there. Maybe Canadian military industrial complex is just not capable to refurbish these vehicles and do some proper work on it so that they will at least move around, right? Maybe that's the reason. And in any case, 25 APCs, by the way, it's just 25 drones for Russian troops, and that's about it, right? They will be cooked. And of course, topic of recent Putin Trump conversation, phone conversation. Trump-Zelensky meeting is to nowadays, by the way, makes headlines. And there is all sorts of speculations, not just about this, but also about possible meeting between Trump and Putin in Budapest. I will go through all of it in a minute, but let me demonstrate to you, dear friends, how untrustworthy these Western so-called media outlets are, because look what is going on here. Wall Street Journal, big name, by the way, in the West, is reporting that Trump allegedly told Zelensky that he was not interested in the fate of the territories, right? So this territorial issue is not concern for Trump, allegedly. This is Wall Street Journal. On the other hand, we have New York Times, also a big name in the West, which is writing, and all of them are writing usually on sources, right? Informed sources. Okay. So New York Times is writing that Trump demanded from Zelensky to make territorial concessions. And the question is, which one from these two so-called media outlets are lying? Is Trump uninterested in topic of territorial issues and demands a ceasefire to be established on the current line of contact, or, as Wall Street Journal says, or New York Times is correct and Trump was demanding from Zelensky territorial concessions? I don't know. I don't know, dear friends, which report is correct. This is the state of Western media, right? Literally on daily basis, these big names in the West are coming up with articles that are contradicting each other, and quite often same media outlet, so-called media outlet, might have articles in one day, by the way, in one paper, that contradicts each other. So it is anybody's guess, by the way, what was going on there in the White House when Zelensky was visiting. But this is not all. Of course, speculations continue about possible this meeting between Trump and Putin in Budapest. And yesterday, first, CNN reported that Lavrov and Rubio meeting was postponed. That was scheduled for this week, allegedly. And this meeting was postponed because of the principal stance of the Russian side. Then later on, deputy of the foreign minister here in Russia, Rybkov, stated that nothing was postponed because nothing was arranged. Right? There was no arrangement that this day we will have a meeting. So therefore, how can something can be arranged that was never planned, to begin with, right? Rybkov clearly has a point there, right? But speculations continue nevertheless. And later on yesterday, Financial Times reported that Rubio and Lavrov will meet each other on October 30. We'll have a face-to-face meeting on October 30 to discuss different topics, mainly in regards to Trump-Putin summit, right? Yet again, take any of these informations, by the way, with a pinch of salt. We just don't know what the hell is going on. But then what happened is that NBC journalist, so-called journalist, Garrett Hack, posted on his True Social or Twitter X, whatever this is, that planning towards that Trump-Putin summit in Budapest is on hold at the moment. A senior White House official tells me that's what this Garrett Hack is posted, right? Initial call between Secretary Rubio and Foreign Minister Lavrov was productive, but POTUS believes, US President believes both sides aren't ready enough to talk, to justify moving forward right now with this summit. So even though Financial Times reported that Lavrov and Rubio probably will meet each other on 30th of October, which might be false information. Nevertheless, we had this report from CBS or NBC, journalists that Trump himself is kind of not in a hurry about this meeting. So therefore, we might not have a meeting between Rubio and Lavrov too. And this is not all, by the way. Speculations continue, and TASS news agency actually try to get some answers, right, from Washington. What the hell is going on, right? And let me give you some details on that. The US administration is not planning a meeting between President Donald Trump and the Russian leader Vladimir Putin in the near future, nor is it planning a meeting between US Secretary of State Marco Rubio and the Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov. A US administration spokesperson stated this in response to TASS news agency, right? So this is a Russian state-financed media outlet, by the way, TASS news agency. Many of you are familiar with this, of course, and TASS news agency is sharing information that White House has no plans, at least for now and for near future. And near future probably means next week or next 2 weeks, next 3 weeks, right? Next 4 weeks, maybe also near future, 2 months. Anyways, for near future, there is no plans in U.S. administration to have a meeting either between Trump and Putin or between Rubio and Lavrov. But for whatever reason, speculations continue, by the way, even though, this message is quite clear here. Nothing is happening, no preparations, right? But this was not enough. And Kirill Dmitriev, by the way, aide of Russian president, went to post on his social page that media is twisting comment about the immediate future to undercut their upcoming summit preparations. Continue to undercut upcoming summit, and he also says that preparations continue. Okay, by the way, maybe Kirill Dmitriev knows better what plans of Trump is or White House than White House administration, right? Because yet again, Trump's news agency received answer from U.S. administration that there is no plans, right, on a meeting of Putin and Trump or Rubio and Lavrov. But nevertheless, Dmitriev said, there is preparations in the place and preparations continue, and he blamed media for this chaotic situation around the topic. Okay. Then Zakharova, by the way, official representative of Russian Foreign Ministry, also went to state that rumors about the disruption of the Putin-Trump meeting is info mongering. So Russian Foreign Ministry spokesperson Maria Zakharova sharply commented on rumors about the breakdown of negotiations between Putin and Trump, calling them an information circus of their war party. Axios journalist Barak Ravid, meanwhile, wrote on their social network X that Donald Trump does not plan to meet with Vladimir Putin in the near future, citing White House spokesperson. Komsomolskaya Pravda columnist Alexander Gumov inquired about the Russian side's position and contacted Russian Foreign Ministry spokesperson Maria Zakharova for a comment. Zakharova responded by calling the events veritable info bombing by the war party. Thus, the Russian diplomat refuted speculations about the allegedly cancelled meeting between Russian and US leaders in Hungary. Okay, by the way. Okay. Kremlin itself also commented on the matter. So Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov has said there are serious preparations are required for the planned summit between Russian President Vladimir Putin and US President Donald Trump in Hungary, and that no date has yet been set. for such a meeting, right? And eventually, late yesterday, Trump was finally asked to comment on this whole story directly. And let me give you his statements, by the way. I guess questions will still remain. But Trump at least did not stated that he is going to Hungary. Let's listen what Trump had to say. This is one video.
Canceled or put on hold? Do you know what happened there, and does that affect your decision whether or not to send tomahawks?
No, I don't want to have a wasted meeting. I don't want to have a waste of time. So I'll see what happens. But
he said, "I don't want a wasted meeting. I don't want a wasted time," which is not really a statement that indicates preparations or readiness for such a meeting, right? Clearly, there is some issues in place. Let's listen to it again.
Putin is canceled or put on hold. Do you know what happened there, and does that affect your decision whether or not to send tomahawks?
no, I don't want to have a wasted meeting. I don't want to have a waste of time. So I'll see what happens. But we did all of these great deals, great peace deals. They're all peace deals, agreements, solid agreements, every one of them. But this one, and I said, go to the line of battle, the battlefield lines, and you pull back and you go home, and everybody take some time off, because you got two countries that are killing each other. You got two countries that are losing 5,000 to 7,000 soldiers a week. So we'll see what happens. We haven't made a determination.
So he said that there was no determination made yet, that there is no final decision. And there is also follow-up commentary from Trump.
And you never know what's going to happen. But a lot of things are happening on that front, on the war front, with Ukraine and Russia.
Let's listen to again.
I didn't say it would, and you never know what's going to happen. But a lot of things are happening on that front, on the war front, with Ukraine and Russia. And we'll be notifying you over the next 2 days as to what we're doing.
Did you hear
a
something?
lot of things are happening.
Did you hear something?
I think we're going to get it solved. Yeah, please.
Mr. President, on Ukraine, do you still see a chance for a ceasefire? And what is
Say it
Putin
again.
asking for?
What?
Do you still see a chance for a ceasefire? And what is
I do.
Putin
Yeah,
asking
I do.
for?
Yeah, he still sees a chance for a ceasefire there. Come on, man. What ceasefire, man? It's out of question at this point, and the Russian side was very clear on that no temporary solutions are acceptable for Moscow, only full-scale resolution of the crisis, which will require, of course, root causes to be addressed. But as you can see, dear friends, Trump himself during the conversation with the journalists stated that no final decision is made yet. He don't want her to waste time, right? Which is which is quite an indicator, I guess, that during the talks, for example, between Lavrov and Rubio, recent phone conversation, sides did not manage to find the common ground, right? And therefore, of course, if negotiating teams of two sides are not on the same page, then there is not much point to arrange a meeting between the two presidents, right? It's that simple. So definitely, if negotiating teams are struggling to find common ground, then probably this summit, announced summit in Budapest, probably will not take place, and I'm okay with that. I'm absolutely okay with that, because I think, if anything, Trump has to come to Russia. Russian president already traveled to US in Alaska recently, and if anything, it's Trump that have to travel to Russia If he has any issues with that, he can travel to Belarus, he can travel to Kazakhstan, some other friendly countries towards Russia. Why Russian president have to risk and fly to Hungary through hostile airspace? It does makes no sense whatsoever, right? So yes, that's where we are at this point, dear friends. Confusion in regards to this possible meeting between Trump and Putin, and most likely there are gonna be no meetings, by the way, next 2-3 weeks for sure. That's my understanding, that in near future, in next 2-3 weeks, in next months also, there gonna be no meeting between Trump and Putin. Maybe this meeting would not take place even in next several months. We will see. But nevertheless, dear friends, speculations continue. What is the reason of delay of this summit? And for example, number of Western media outlets are reporting that main reason allegedly is that Russia continues to stand on its already declared positions, and for whatever reason, this came as a surprise for Washington, which is surprising on its own, right? How? When Russia indicated that principal stance on principal issues have been changed. Never. No Russian official, from Putin to any other, ever indicated that Russian principal stance have changed. So why Washington was kind of surprised if these reports are correct, it is anybody's guess, I don't know. But that's one of the reports on this matter, dear friends, that Russia reiterates peace terms to US in a private non-paper. According to Reuters, Russia sent a confidential diplomatic memo to the US over the weekend, restating its previous peace terms for Ukraine. Key demands: full Russian control over their entire Donbas region, rejecting Trump's proposal to freeze their front lines where they currently stand, no NATO troops stationed in Ukraine under any peace framework. The White House has not commented, and Moscow's embassy in Washington has remained silent when Reuters tried to ask for commentary. And yet again, only question I have personally, why anybody in the White House or in US administration in general expected that Russian stance have changed. Why would they change? After all, I mean, if anything, it's US administration that has to realize that they lost, right? And if they want to save face, it will be better if they will pull out US from this proxy war that West is waging against Russia, right? They should pull out US right now, while they can do it, theoretically speaking, with their while kind of saving face, right? But if they're gonna continue to mess around, then okay, they will go down together with the European elites. If that's what they want, then okay, man. But Russian side is very clear what goals of Russian Federation is, and these are principal positions, and Russia don't changes its principal stance day in, day out, as US administration does. For example, when US president today says one thing, tomorrow something completely different, and day after something even more different. I mean, we don't operate here in Russia that way. Maybe that's why Washington was surprised, because they can flip-flop literally several times a day. They do it all constantly, right? But when it comes to Russian stance, once again, dear friends, Lavrov, foreign minister of the Russian Federation, spoke with the journalists, and he once again reiterated that no changes in Russian principal positions to be expected, right? Let me give you a report about it from RT. So Moscow remains committed to achieving a lasting peace with Ukraine and addressing the root causes of the conflict, as Russian President Vladimir Putin and US leader Donald Trump agreed during their talks in Alaska. Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov has stated. The top diplomat made the remarks on Tuesday, apparently responding to latest change in Trump's rhetoric. Over the weekend, the US president called for an immediate halt of hostilities along the current front lines, urging the two sides to live in the way it is right now and negotiate something later on. I mean, this is not the way this is not the way things are done, man. What kind of deal maker is Trump? Leave it as it is and go back to the matter sometime later. No, man, it's very difficult to understand what the hell is going on in Trump's brains, if there any brain, right? So Russia has not changed its position compared to understandings reached during their lengthy negotiations in Alaska. The consensus reached back then with the President Trump is formulated when he said that long-term sustainable peace is needed, not an immediate pointless ceasefire, Lavrov said. Moscow remains fully committed to this formula, the foreign minister stressed, adding that he reaffirmed the position of the US on Monday when speaking to Secretary of the State Marco Rubio. Lavrov firmly rejected the latest calls made by Washington to stop immediately and let history judge, adding that such an approach would not bring lasting peace. Simply stopping means forgetting the root causes of the conflict, which the American administration, since Donald Trump's arrival in office, has clearly understood and articulated, Lavrov said. And well, basically, we'll understand what Lavrov is talking about here, but I mean, this is Trump. I mean, US president is a Trump, right? Person that literally can flip-flop on a same topic several times a day. And at this point, I don't think it really matters what Trump said during the Alaska summit. I don't think it really matters what Trump said yesterday and what he will say today. I don't think anything that Trump says actually has any meaning at this point. And maybe it will be better for Russian side. Just maybe it will be better for Russian side to cut this waste of time while high-ranking officials are talking to American representatives, American high-ranking representatives, and leave door open for potential connections, communications for medium-level management staff in foreign ministry and Kremlin administration. I don't think it is. I don't think Lavrov or President of Russia, Putin, for that matter, have to waste their time talking to these freaking morons, man. Either Rubio or Trump or anyone else, man. Nothing they say has any meaning, right? Literally nothing. They can flip-flop on the same topic several times a day, and why we are wasting time then? Just leave communication to some medium-range managers, medium-range officials, bureaucrats in mid or foreign ministry or the Kremlin administration, and that's it. Focused on some other more important stuff, because talks with Trump, talks with any US officials is pure waste of time, man. Pure waste of time. 100%. It is unfortunate that this is the reality. Of course, it is unfortunate, but well, reality is not asking us, do we like it or not? I mean, reality is reality. And we have to, based on our judgments and our potential steps on reality. Not what we think, but what actual reality is. And the actual reality clearly indicates that nothing that comes out from anybody from US administration or from collective West in general can be trusted and can be taken seriously, period. And I remind you, dear friends, that this is exactly the Trump's administration who just months ago, maybe a little longer, authorized transfer of 3,000 ERAM cruise missiles to Kiev regime. It's very this administration that authorized transfer of 3,000 plus cruise missiles with a range of 350 to 450 kilometers to Kiev regime. And they might still go ahead, by the way, and authorize transfer of some God knows what other types of long-range weapon systems to be deployed against Russia. That's factual. That's what actually has a meaning, right? Because this is weapons that we are talking about that potentially can kill thousands of Russian civilians and harm Russian military too. RT is reporting that, well, meanwhile, no one in the EU likes prospects of the Trump-Putin summit, according to Financial Times, and EU bureaucrats can chill now. There's going to be no Putin-Trump summit in anytime soon, let's say this way, right? But anyways, let's go through this report here. The prospect of another summit between US President Donald Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin has unsettled EU officials, the Financial Times reports on Tuesday, citing diplomatic sources. US and the Russian leaders agreed to meet in Budapest during a phone call last week, apparently catching EU bureaucrats off guard. The announcement reportedly caused a universally negative effect across the EU. No one likes it. We are grinding through our teeth while saying this is fine. One unnamed EU diplomat told the Financial Times, and well, yet again, EU bureaucrats can chill now. All these Russophobes and Russia haters and enemies of Russia in the West can chill. There's gonna be no meeting between Trump and Putin anytime soon, and for good, I guess, right? For good, because I guess all of you, dear friends, and me, myself included, I mean, all of our community and community in this world is sick and tired of these games that West is coming up day in, day out, Western elites, right? From US to London to Brussels to Berlin and Paris, I mean, whole world is sick and tired of the Western elites, man. Let's put it this way, right? Of course, we will monitor the situation, but this crisis is going to be resolved on the battlefield. It is just that obvious, right? And most likely, active phase of military operations will end when Russian troops will reach borders of the Western Ukraine. That's what is going to happen. Most likely, active phase of military operation will end when Russian troops will reach borders of the Western Ukraine. Until then, this high-intensity conflict, this proxy war that West is waging against Russia, probably will continue and might last for another several years even. Right? It all depends on stockpile of weapons in NATO countries, and it all depends on how many people Kiev regime still can sacrifice. And they can sacrifice quite a lot, because Kiev regime can activate forceful mobilization of elderly people like pensioners and people that are close to retiring age, and soon Kiev regime might begin forceful mobilization of younger generations from 18 to 25 that have not been forced to participate in this proxy war yet. And in that case, I mean, we are talking about some 1.5 to 2 million people at least. 1.5, 2 million people at least that Kiev regime and its Western masters still can sacrifice against Russia from their population that is still remains on the Kiev-controlled territory. So yes, let's see how the situation goes, but most likely this conflict will end when Russian troops will reach borders of the Western Ukraine, and until then, well, we will just have to do what we have to do. Continue demilitarization and denazification of Ukraine, and continue fight our enemies and defend ourselves. That's it. really. Meanwhile, some strange reports are coming in that Europe and the Kiev regime are kind of working on 12-point plan to end the war. And I can give you some details from this so-called plan, by the way, and you will realize straight away that this is a non-starter. This is some sort of another game that globalists are coming up with. The plan's implementation would be overseen by a peace council chaired by US President Donald Trump, according to European elites. Once Russia, following Ukraine's lead, agrees to ceasefire and both sides commit to halt territorial offensives, their proposals call for the return of their deported children to Ukraine. This topic of children, by the way, has been weaponized so badly, isn't it, by Western elites. Russia did not did not kidnap no children from Ukraine. Russia evacuated children from how you say it, orphanages, right? From orphanages, children that was left by their own parents and their own relatives. Russian troops evacuated children from orphanages. And whenever their parents or relatives are contacting Russian side and they're expressing willingness that they will take care of those children being returned. And there was already several instances, isn't it, when through mediation of United Arab Emirates, number of children were sent back to their relatives on Kiev-controlled territory. And I have issue with that, by the way. I'm going to be 100% real here. I have issue with that. Maybe from legal standpoint, Moscow has no right to refuse to transfer those kids to their relatives, but there is a moral point also to make there, isn't it? I mean, those kids were left by their own parents and by their own relatives in that orphanages, right? So I don't think those people gonna take care of those kids. I really don't think they will take care of those kids. So I don't like when and Kiev regime is, of course, using this topic. They are probably bribing the relatives of those kids, or forcing to basically make the claims that they want these children back. And God knows what will happen with those children after. Because if those people were moral, decent, they would never, ever drop those kids into orphanages. Am I correct, dear friends? So maybe from legal standpoint, Moscow cannot refuse to transfer those kids whenever their relatives are making claims, but I don't like that, man. Those kids are happy here, right? And God knows what's going to happen with them on Kiev-controlled territory. But anyways, whenever such a claim is made, Russia is doing whatever is possible to reunite them with their relatives, right? And it is and this topic, fact that this topic was this weaponized to demonize Russia by the Western so-called media, Western so-called elites, once again demonstrates a level of degeneration of the West, Western political culture, morality, dignity, right, among those so-called elites, man. Next point in this so-called Western or European peace plan is prisoner exchange, Western guarantees for security, the Kiev regime, I guess, reconstruction funding, and fast-tracked path to EU membership for a Kiev regime. Okay, sanctions on Russia would be gradually lifted. Europeans are promising, although around 300 billion of frozen central bank reserves of Russia would be returned to Moscow only after Moscow agrees to contribute to Ukraine's post-war rebuilding. Okay, non-starter, isn't it? Just a total BS there, by the way. Why am I even wasting my time or your time on this 12-point European plan to end the war. But Western media will probably pay attention to this matter, and you will know what is going on, right? And that's the only reason I'm sharing this information. Interfax, meanwhile, is reporting that U.S. Senate committee is preparing to pass 3 bills to increase pressure on Russia. So 3 bills aimed to increase pressure on Russia are being prepared for adoption by the U.S. Senate Foreign Relations Committee on Wednesday. Axios reports the more we can do here to put pressure on Russia, the more we should do it. Republican Senator James Rich, the committee chairman, told Axios, according to the portal, the committee plans to pass 3 bipartisan bills. One of them, Axios clarifies, will label Russia as a state sponsor of terrorism, while the other proposes imposing economic sanctions on China for supporting Moscow. I mean, it is a tragedy of the world and the humanity when terrorist state that US is, actual terrorist state, by the way. US was built on a genocide and mass murder and terrorism, right? They killed millions of indigenous people in North America while building this empire, right? They continue to kill millions of people all around the world since the creation, and they are calling some other countries a terrorist. Wow, that's just wow, man. Wow, right? Who gives a damn, man? Rest of the world is distancing from the collective West literally on daily basis, and soon we will be in a situation when there is clear border, right? A digital border, digital wall, economical wall, military wall, right? Between collective West and the rest of the world, and hopefully that will keep safe at least the people outside of the West. I don't know how people inside the West gonna feel, right? While they have a chance to migrate, maybe they should. Otherwise they're gonna get isolated, man, from the rest of the world, because that's what their elites basically are pushing for, isn't it? And for rest of the world to somehow protect itself, I mean, there is one solution: just distance itself as much as possible from the West, and build all sorts of protections, right? Layered protection, by the way. There still might be some connection between the sides. It will take like a couple of decades, right, to completely separate these two worlds, Western world and another 80% of humanity, which is the rest of the world. It will take a decade or two to finalize this separation, but this process seems absolutely unstoppable at this point, and only way forward, because Western societies are absolutely unable to reclaim their own countries, right? To deal with the corrupt political, economical systems that they have, and to actually do something about these corrupt elites that they have, right? And therefore, if a current so-called elite is going to stay in charge there, then of course they would not change their behavior. They will continue to be destructive force in this world, evil force in this world, and we have rest of the world. I mean, we have to protect ourselves from this evil, isn't it? A way to do it is to just get as far away as possible from the Western world. Some contacts, some trade contacts, economical contacts probably still be in place even after separation is complete. But generally speaking, world will get divided, and that will last for God knows how long, man. Maybe for decades, maybe for centuries, that separation. It seems absolutely inevitable now. Some other topics, Middle East. Well, J.D. Vance, U.S. Vice President, was in the Middle East, and he made a statement that there will be no U.S. boots on the ground. I don't know why. he made this statement while being in Israel, by the way. He went yesterday on that wall in Jerusalem. And I wonder, I have a question, dear friends. I'm not a theologist, so I'm not really that knowledgeable in on this religious stuff. I'm just ordinary Orthodox Christian, right? With some, you know, minor knowledge about all the religious philosophies worldwide and so on. But nevertheless, to me personally, it is not okay when these formerly Christians, right? And Vance formally at least is a Christian, right? That's what he claims to be. And it's not okay to me personally when these Christians are, when they are traveling to Israel, they are going into that wall in Jerusalem and kind of praying there or something, putting some papers in that wall. What the hell? Is this normal stuff, by the way? I mean, Christians who know more, I'm interested in your position. Is this a normal, by the way? Because I would never do this. Why would I? Why would I pray or participate in some religious, clearly spiritual ceremony on a holy place of other religion? Why? I don't get it. But Vance went yesterday to that wall, and I don't know, pray there or what he did, right? That wall is not a church for sure. I mean, last time I checked, that wall was not a part of a church. But anyways, he then went to make some statements, and he said that there will be no boots, U.S. boots, on the ground in Gaza, and he lied, brother, straight up lied, because U.S. troops, exactly yesterday I saw videos when U.S. troops actually was moved around Gaza, and it was called like familiation trip or something. U.S. troops to get familiar with the territory. So what J.D. Vance was talking about? U.S. troops already are on the ground, right? And he said they're going to be no U.S. troops. Okay, but for these people, lie is normal stuff, by the way. I mean, if they ever said something truthful, that's what should surprise us. But when they lie, it's okay. It's usual stuff, right? Let me give you some short video on that. There was a super chat, I believe. I mean, let me check, dear friends. Yes, there was a super chat on Rumble from Scooby. I will react on super chat after new segment, Scooby, in a few minutes. But now, first, let me share this video, dear friends. When Vance spoke about U.S. troops.
Couple of things. Number one, there are not going to be American boots on the ground in Gaza. The President of the United States has made that very clear. All of our military leadership has made that very clear. What we can do is provide some useful coordination. How do you take, the Gulf Arab states, plus Israel, plus, plus the Turks, plus the Indonesians? How do you actually get those folks to work together in a way that actually produces long-term peace? The only real mediators are the United States of America. And so that's the role that we're going to play. I think the American people should be proud of it, but they should know that there are going to be no American boots on the ground in Gaza. Sir, in the back.
So you see, he's saying no American boots on the ground. Well, already there are U.S. troops on the ground, man. Already, those troops are there. At least 200 military personnel was sent. I reported about it. These troops were depicted, by the way, on Ben Gurion Airport. I shared photo of that on my Telegram and Twitter like a few days ago. Yesterday, I did saw this video. I did not share on my Telegram or Twitter, if I remember correctly. I just did not have the time, right? But I saw a video of U.S. troops being moved around Gaza as a tourists, right, to get know the place. And J.D. Vance is saying that they're going to be no U.S. troops. Okay, okay. By the way, who are those American soldiers then? And let me give you another video, dear friends. As Trump loves to do, J.D. Vance also went to threaten Hamas with obliteration. I don't know why they are doing this, why they have to act tough, that they're going to obliterate everything and everybody, and this and that. Part of political culture, I guess, in US to act this crazy. Okay, I mean, let me give you this.
Is very straightforward. The terms of the 20-point plan that the president put out there is very clear. It's supported not just by Israel, but by all of our Gulf Arab friends. It's that Hamas has to disarm. It's that Hamas has to actually behave itself, and that Hamas, while all the fighters can be given some sort of clemency, they're not going to be able to kill each other, and they're not going to be able to kill their fellow Palestinians. Now, again, that's going to take a little bit of time. We're talking about how to set up the security and humanitarian apparatus to put all this in place. But right now, where I stand, I feel confident that we're going to be in a place where this peace lasts, where it's durable. And if Hamas doesn't cooperate, then as the President of the United States has said, Hamas is going to be obliterated. Steve, do you want to add anything?
Well, US and Israel already tried to obliterate Hamas, and how it went. All US and Israel and their allies managed to basically succeed in either killing of hundreds of thousands of innocent Palestinian civilians. Last time I checked, Hamas was still there, and in high numbers than even before Israel began its operations. And so, yeah, okay, they can threaten Hamas as much as they want, but will that change anything on the ground? I don't know. And one should also notice that, well, West Israel and their Israeli allies in the West, US first of all, are constantly saying that Hamas not going to play part in a future of Gaza. Easy if Hamas, by the way, is some alien group, right? Or Hamas members came from some other continent or other region of this planet. Hamas members, these tens of thousands of fighters, are Palestinians, right? They are Palestinians. And they have a support now of Palestinian people because they fight. They actually fight and died fighting, many of them, right? And if elections are held right now, actual elections, right? If people being asked who you will support, members of Hamas, by the way, that will run for elections most likely will gain most of the votes. Does anybody has any doubts about it? So all these claims that Hamas gonna disappear and cease to exist, and Hamas members have to flee Gaza and stuff, it's nonsense. Everyone understands that this is total nonsense, right? But still this narrative being pushed because, why? Because sometime in the future, Israeli regime, and their allies, US and others, will say, you know what, we tried peace, it did not work, now we have to resume military phase again. That's what they're gonna do. That's what they're gonna do, man. Right? Anyways, dear friends, let's continue now. And everyone should keep in mind, by the way, that Hamas would not even exist if Israel did not act in a way that this country is acting since its creation, since the 48, right? Hamas is a part of resistance movement, as a Fatah is, as a Hezbollah is, by the way. Hezbollah, many people are forgetting that Hezbollah in Lebanon was created after Israeli invasion, not before, right? And that's why these groups being called resistance group, resistance to their occupation. It's Israel that is occupying territory of Palestinians. It's not other way around, right? And people under the occupation have a right, every right, by the way, God-given right, to fight and resist. That's how it is. Anyways, why I have to explain this simple stuff, man. We all understand this anyways, right? Who am I talking to? Sometimes, when you are talking about news and stuff, by the way, you just you can be carried, right, by topic emotions, and let's continue, dear friends. There, I have I believe one news left for this new segment. Few more. And by the way, it's not just US troops that already are on the ground actually there, but UK also plans to send its troops, right? Yesterday, number of sources reported about it. It's going to be sort of a monitor, small group that will allegedly monitor their ceasefire in Gaza, and they will operate in close cooperation with their US troops and the UK that already sent 200 of its military, US, I mean. And the British allegedly are deploying their troops under their American request. That's the reports on media, by the way. So soon, probably we will see footage, photos, and videos of arrival of British military personnel also in Israel and then in Gaza. And I don't think they're gonna serve there as a sort of a peacekeepers or monitoring groups. They're gonna participate in crimes against humanity alongside Israeli forces. And I will end, dear friends, this news segment on this reporter from Axios that U.S. intelligence is closely tracking the movement of the Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro, not surprisingly. And as I said many times before, it's only a matter of time when the U.S. will launch attacks, direct operations to remove Maduro's government and to place their puppets there, right? Probably this will happen with a direct military intervention of U.S. with a air bombing campaign, missile strikes, potentially with a landing operation too, with ground operations too. But we will see. But we are getting closer and closer, literally on daily basis, when U.S. gonna get engaged in yet another regime change and war. Actually, if Venezuelan people will fight, of course, U.S. is in no position to, to win that battle. No way. It all depends on people of Venezuela. And at the same time, by the way, we should also keep in mind that there is a probability that friends of people of Venezuela might actually help them, and maybe already are helping with all sorts of weapon systems. Maybe people of Venezuela already have quite a number of long-range anti-ship missiles. That might come handy when U.S. attacks, right? Also, air defense systems, portal and stationary. Some other stuff, maybe number of PMCs that are friendly to Venezuela and not really that friendly towards US already have sent their hundreds of their members into Venezuela to train locals in partisan operations, right? To deal with American troops. Anything is possible, by the way. US might get involved there in a war that it cannot end on its terms. Anything is possible. And US has many enemies, by the way, due to criminal activity and terrorist activity of the US leaderships since the creation of this country, actually, right? Let's be real here. Due to genocidal criminal activity of the United States since its creation. This country has a lot of enemies all over the world, right? For understandable reasons. And based on current situation, there is not even a slight chance that American people will manage to reclaim control over this country and put some decent people in a leading position. So therefore, of course, US will continue to operate in the only way this country knows, which is killing, mass killing, destruction, terrorism, right? That's it, man. That's what US does always. Anyways, yet again, if Venezuelan people will fight, they're gonna win that battle 100%. By the way, I have no doubts about it. And this is it for now, dear friends. This is it for now. Hopefully you did find new segment informative and useful, and if so, please like the video if you did not yet. More likes and comments probably are helping to deal with this like tremendously aggressive algorithm, by the way. What this algorithm did to my yesterday's live stream, man. Wow. Anyways, dear friends, yes, if you can, please like the video, leave some commentary. And I will now highlight super chat from Scooby on Rumble. Just a sec, dear friends. Just a sec. And there was no, as far as I can tell, there was no more super chats, no questions from Boosty or just to make sure, by the way. Yeah, there was no questions on Boosty. So therefore, I will react on this super chat, and that's about it for today, dear friends. Later on at 7 p.m. Moscow time, dear friends, most likely I will still launch second live stream for today, second news update. If you receive notification, please join the live stream. I will do my best to prepare interesting update for you. And if you don't receive a notification, anyways, around 7 o'clock, 7:10 p.m. Moscow time, just check my channel, and most likely I'll be on air with their update. Come on, man, where is this super chat? So this is their super chat, dear friends, that I want to react. Scooby, thank you very much for your super chat on Rumble and a $5 supporter. A question from Scooby is, on Duran, Brian Berletic speculated that West is moving into a Navy blockade strategy. Is it not obvious that long and slow attrition is their goal rather than a big military escalation? Yet, of course, US clearly is using this tactic of maritime blockade on China, and this is a long tactic, by the way. US still is in control of main trade routes that China has, right? China uses. So if Americans want to, they can actually shut down these maritime routes, most of these maritime routes for China, and that's why Beijing is actively working with the Pakistan. China was investing big in Pakistan to have to bypass main maritime routes, right? That they are using right now around Philippines and so on there. That's why China was building these bases in South China Sea to have a stronger presence also. And that's why China is seeking close cooperation with Iran. One of the ways to bypass Indian Ocean, partially at least, right? Completely impossible, but at least partially, is to have a trade route, either through Russia and through Central Asia and towards Iran, right? Because in that case, you can trade with Europe, let's say, and Africa, bypassing this Oceania, right? And that's what China does. That's what China does. They understand that US still has a strong presence, enough presence in the region that they can shut down these maritime routes that are very important for them. And that's why China is looking at Northern Sea route that Russia is operating with, right? And that's why China is heavily investing in Central Asia, in Iran, by the way. And in Pakistan also, but you see, Pakistan is in a strange place. On one side, they want to cooperate with China. On the other side, U.S. Assets. U.S. has just numerous number of assets, by the way, in intelligence and the military leadership of Pakistan, right? And that's why Pakistani leadership just recently made decision to give U.S. port, right, on its coastal line. So yes, it's absolutely true. When it comes to Russia, dear friends, when it comes to Russia, Russia is just too big. What you're gonna do with Russia? And Russia is self-sufficient. That's the most important stuff. China is not self-sufficient. China needs energy from outside, right? In other terms, China can sustain itself, and they need energy. Russia is a different story. We have everything we need actually, right? We literally have everything we need. So therefore, maritime blockade against Russia is just waste of time. You're not going to be able to do so, right? So we are in a bit different. We are locked anyways. I mean, we are locked anyways, geographically speaking, because on the north there is, of course, Arctic, right? And through Arctic, we can communicate from one part of Russia to another, then also with the rest of the world. But on one side, on the western side, there is a NATO. On eastern side, there is US, Alaska, right? They can actually shut down, if they want to, Nord Stream. Not Nord Stream, but Northern Sea Road. Okay, and what? They can shut down, theoretically speaking, Baltics too for Russia. Black Sea is basically also can be shut down because there is one way out of Black Sea, right, through Dardanelles. And who is in control there? Turkey. Turkey is a NATO member state, right? So Russia is, geographically speaking, is quite a locked country, right? Isn't it? From world oceans. And Russia developed this way, so therefore it's not really big of a deal. Russia is more heavily invested in the land routes of trade. China is a bit different. And West is definitely doing quite a lot, especially US, by the way, to encircle both countries, Russia and China, and they are doing it quite successfully, really. And both Russia and China are encircled. It's just factual. Question is what they're gonna do about it, because there is no way, if it comes to hot war between Russia and US, hot full-scale war between Russia and the US, Russia and NATO, or China and US and China and NATO, there is no way, by the way, this world will survive that. War between Russia and NATO, China and NATO, is the end of humanity anyways, right? And if anybody thinks that they can be some low-level military confrontation between Russia and the NATO, between China and NATO, and no nuclear weapons will be used, all of them are mistaken, by the way, right? We should understand that neither Russia, neither China, without the nukes, have any chances to fight like 40 countries simultaneously, man, alone. It's just impossible, right? And Russian leadership has no illusions about it. I believe Medvedev, a couple of months ago, said it directly, right? But we should understand that NATO, or collective West together, is 40 plus countries, right? Not just NATO, but collective West together. It's 40 plus countries. And if it comes to full-scale war, of course, Russia will use nuclear weapons. And there will be no other options, right? Because from economical standpoint, financial standpoint, human standpoint, these 40 countries have much more capabilities, combined capabilities, right? And none of us are illusional here in Russia that we can beat collective West single-handedly with the conventional means. No, it's not possible, right? So of course we will use nukes, by the way. NATO wants to launch a war against us, we will kill them all, literally. We will just kill them all, man. We will die too. We will die too. No doubts about that, but we will kill them all also. You know? And that's why there are going to be no winners in actual war between Russia and NATO or China and NATO. And therefore, okay, it is factual that both countries, Russia and China, being encircled by these hostile regimes, right? By these hostile entities that are controlled by Western elites. And so what they're going to do about it? And so what? You know, only in case of war, they can actually shut down these maritime routes. Only in case of war. And if there is a war, by the way, that means everyone gonna die. If there is a war between major nuclear powers. So it will have not much meaning if US will for a day manage to shut down maritime routes through Indian Ocean, for example. Okay, they will, but next day everyone will die. So what is the point, right? West already lost. We should understand that Western world has already lost, by the way, and mainly due to insanity of its elites, right? For last 3 to 5 years, they were ruling this world, most of this world, I mean, Western, this generation and elites, with the iron fist, right? They were committing genocides like it's nothing. They killed hundreds of millions of people, by the way. Can you imagine that? They killed hundreds of millions of people all over the world in last 3 to 5 centuries. And they grew up, and every next generation of these Western elites were growing up in an environment that they did not knew what no means, right? What negotiations are, why diplomacy is needed, what respect is. They just don't know anything about it, right? They grew up literally in a situation when they could demand anything and it will be done, right? But world is changing now. World is changing, and the Western elites clearly are cut off guard, kind of, right? Because they are issuing orders. You see, they are issuing orders to Russia, and Russia says, you know what, get lost. They are issuing orders to China. China is saying, get lost. They are issuing orders and the threats to India. India is saying, get lost. And other smaller countries are looking to these developments, and they are saying to Western elites also, I mean, not that boldly as Russia, China, or India can, but nevertheless, these other smaller countries also are saying that, you know what, just get lost, man, leave us alone. And that's the issue, by the way, because these Western elites clearly are not prepared to operate in this ever-changing environment, when they are no longer dominant force and they are no longer rulers of this world, right? So either they will manage to adapt, these Western elites, or humanity will have no option but to exterminate them as a evil force, and because they are evil force and the main threat for humanity. That's how it is, man. So yes, on point of building infrastructure for maritime blockade of Russia and China, Brian Berletic is definitely on point. Both countries already are encircled in this sense, largely, right? Thank you very much, Scooby, for your question, for your donation, and super chat on Boosty. And there was no more. Let me just check right now, just to make sure that, you know, that's it. And yes, that's it. Yesterday there was when I end the live stream, there was a super chat from Bonzo Beans, our moderator on YouTube and Rumble. Thank you very much, Bonzo, for yesterday's super chat and dollar donation. I was not on air when I saw it, right? Because of this delay of 20 seconds or something, sometimes it happens. I ended the stream and some member sent a super chat exactly at that point, right? And I cannot react on that, but I saw it afterwards. And thank you very much, John, for yesterday's super chat. And this is it, dear friends. For now, if you will have a time, please join this evening's live stream that will most likely be launched at 7 p.m. Moscow time. I will let you know about it on a YouTube page, community page on YouTube, on my Telegram and Twitter X pages too, some 30 minutes before I launch the live stream. And hopefully today there will be more people during the live stream, because yesterday, main part of live stream, only 35 of us were on a stream. And when I was ending live stream, our numbers reach up to 60. Hopefully today, more of us will be there. And I on my part, will try to make to prepare for your interesting second news update, and I will start preparing right now as I will end this stream. Thank you, dear friends, for your attention, for your time. Have a wonderful day, dear friends, and see you this evening. Take care.